Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Damn Podcast. I am your host, Angie Machado. Joined with me, as always, is BeaverBlitz beat writer Jake Hedberg in Corvallis. Hey, Jake, how are you?
Doing well. You know, it was a pretty fun weekend of baseball in Corvallis. Got graduation coming up this weekend, but that's not my number one priority. I'm stoked to watch these Beavs get after it on Friday and Sunday.
Yeah, you had some pretty good seats. I saw some pics, so that was a fun weekend. If you're joining us live, make sure you pop some comments as you're watching. We will have some questions here from the lodge at BeaverBlitz. Also, quick plug: this is the last evening to take advantage of 60% off annual subscription to BeaverBlitz. Time to jump on. It is well worth it, as we have Omaha coming up, and then we jump right into, fall camp is right around the corner, so football is here before you know it. We have a very special guest yet again this week. I'm super excited to bring back Mark Garland, West Coast content for College Baseball Central. He's been with us now 2 weeks in a row, and I told him he has to come back now because it's like superstitious. So we need Mark, and maybe next week. You don't know, Mark. I'm going to bring you on here. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Doing great. Just so excited. What a weekend of college baseball. And boy, what a way to see the Beavs win. And now I actually get to cover them in Omaha for the first time in 4 years. I'm very excited. Very excited.
So cool. So cool. So big weekend in Corvallis. We're a little recap or kind of a rundown of what the show looks like. We are going to recap that Corvallis Super Regional with Florida State. What an epic weekend of baseball. And then preview bracket 1 of the College Baseball World Series. Talk a little bit about the second bracket, but really want to dive in and get to the meat of that bracket 1 where the Beavs sit. So it'll be a fun show, and I'm glad everybody's joining us because Mark has so much info. I know he's packing. We're going to try to get you in and out, Mark, because I know you have an early flight to catch to Omaha tomorrow. But it looks like a lot of Beavers, at least based in the lodge. You'll see a lot of orange and black in Omaha.
Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to do a lot of going out in the crowd with you guys down there, too, during the games. So every Beaver game, I'll be out there in the crowd with you guys. Going to come down from the press box and come hang out with you guys for a while.
Sweet. Okay, Beaver fans, you heard it. If you see Mark Garland, make sure to maybe treat him to a little beverage. You know, I don't know if the tower, the dam, the beer can dam will be allowed in Omaha, but look for Mark Garland. I know he'd appreciate some Beaver fan love. Okay, so rewinding back to that Florida State Super Regional. Mark, did it play out how you thought it might, or were you surprised?
I know I was contrary to a lot of the baseball folks that were covering this, and I said Oregon State's winning in 3. It played out almost exactly how I thought it would. I knew it would be a tight game in game 1. I thought that those were 2 good matchups there. I told everybody Vellini's been a little bit tired, but he got a couple weeks off where he didn't have to throw a ton of pitches. He came out and did what he was supposed to do. He spotted his changeup, spotted his curveball. He was really good with those. And then you look at the other side, Dax was wonderful. I mean, he went out there and just competed. The come from behind wasn't expected. I didn't see that come in there with the 2 outs in the 9th, but not ever counting the Beavers out in those situations. And then, of course, game 2, you had one of the best arms in the country. There's a reason why he's going to be taking the top 5 picks this year. Jamie Arnold is everything that you're supposed to be as far as a left-handed pitcher at the college level. He struggled a little early. Said he had a little jet lag, still trying to get used to the West Coast. But once he got going, you saw what makes this guy a special first-round draft pick in this next draft. And, you know, I don't know if there was anything Ethan could have done. He outshined him, honestly, back-to-back just against him the whole time. It just was too much, Jamie Arnold. And then game 3, what an excitement. I mean, giving up the 2 early and I felt like Beaver fans were getting frustrated and getting down a little bit, and then all of a sudden get the runs back, and the place was crazy. Goss was insane this weekend. You Beaver fans got to be just pumped for yourself. That was an unbelievable atmosphere.
I heard it was great. So I was watching from home. Jake, you were there too. I heard that from people that long time Beaver fans said they've never experienced something quite like that. Jake, was it just rocking?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy, you know. That first frame, you know, didn't start off how Oregon State really expected with that 2-run jack by Max Williams. Then, you know, coming back, getting on the board, you taking the lead, you could kind of feel that anticipation start to build. And then, man, that cannon heater home run, just that place exploded. You know, that was I mean, that was it. I mean, that was a huge momentum swinger. And then, you know, Carson McIntyre going yard on top of that just elevated that atmosphere. And it was the rowdiest I've heard Goss maybe ever, to be honest. It was pretty loud.
Yeah. I actually want to go back to the Friday game because
Let's do it.
that was, I don't want to say I counted them out, but I was actually kind of like, oh shoot. Well, now if you go down 0-1 and then tomorrow they're pitching their ace, this could be trouble. With 2 outs. Even my son who loves baseball, we were all kind of sitting around watching it, and all of a sudden, you start stringing some hits, and that was crazy. And I know they say anything can happen in baseball, but 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, wild. Like I said, I don't think I've ever seen anything, and I think that really helped him. But like you said, Jamie Arnold was incredible. But how about that closer? I forget his name. The closer they had came in after Arnold.
Prescott.
Oh, you're talking about Prescott in that game too?
Yeah, Prescott. Yeah. Hopefully he's okay because I know he came in too and then pulled himself. So hopefully he was impressive. I thought he showed some stuff as well. Talk about 2 teams though, and I know Mark, you touched on this, last week. 2 teams that were very, very evenly matched.
Yeah, I mean, you look across the board and you go, okay, they hit about the same. They field about the same. They do the same kind of game style. They don't necessarily steal a lot of bases. They do a little bit of hitting and running. They hit the ball at the ballpark. And that's exactly what we got. We got the pitching matchup we wanted. Those weekend starters were terrific. Little different for the Beavers going with the Kramer out there, but he was awesome. Even though he only went 3 innings, he wasn't expected to go more than that. I think the biggest difference was getting after Wes Mendez. I didn't think that the Beavs could get after him like that in that scenario. He's been terrific for Florida State all season, and with the 2-run lead, I really thought he was going to go deep in that ball game. He gets through 2/3 of an inning, and that was his worst outing of the season. What a bad timing for him, but great for the Beaver fans. I mean, it really was the home atmosphere, and I kept speaking about this on every show and with you guys last week. It's like the home atmosphere is going to make the biggest difference because these 2 teams are so evenly matched across the board. And then you saw something we talked about last week also where the bullpen for Florida State ran out of juice. They just didn't have it. Having to throw Prescott a second time. He's a 2-way guy. He hadn't had to throw twice in a weekend very much at all. Johnson was exhausted. You can see just Joe Charles. Those guys that just didn't have everything that they needed once they got to that bullpen. You kind of felt that for Oregon State. Once they got to the bullpen, if they could get past Mendez, they felt they had a good chance of getting into that ball game.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then, Jake, I know you were there, but seeing on social media the pictures, I mean, Coach Bray, Coach Tinkle, all there totally doing the OSU chants. And but shout out to Florida State. They traveled really well, and we could hear the tomahawk chop a couple times on the TV broadcast. So they did a good job there. But Oregon State did it. That was wild. Did you guys see so Pat Casey was there. I was just on with John Canzano before jumping on here, and we were talking about that. There was that picture that showed up on social media where Pat Casey was down on the field, and him and Mitch embraced and then kind of stopped and looked at each other. And that moment was huge, I thought, just from an Oregon State perspective, the proud dad kind of looking over and Mitch taking that reins. How important, Mark, was it for Mitch Canham to get this team to Omaha this year?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, for just the psyche of the fans, I think, right? I mean, more than the program itself, because Mitch knows what he's doing. He really believes in his guys. He believes in his staff, and the guys believe in him. I think for more than anything, it was the fans to see this is a capable team that can do this against a really good opponent. You ran into a team last year in Kentucky who was the hottest team in the country, honestly, when they got to Omaha. That was not their normal run. They were the hottest team in the country. And then you run into a Florida State team that's very, very good. You're looking at a guy who now has as many 41 seasons as Pat Casey had in his whole career. So you're not missing out on anything, and the fans have been a little harder on him. It's hard to get to Omaha, guys. This is not an easy trip that you make every year. And take the special moments like that. Seeing him embrace Pat and Pat coming down the field and just celebrating with those guys was terrific. And if you're an Oregon State fan, you got to be riding high, feeling good, going to Omaha right now.
Yeah, I think that is hard. It's hard to remember that it is. I mean, all 8 of these teams could win this thing. They're all extraordinary teams. It's hard. It's hard to get there. So, I think Oregon State, and I think it was important too, just after everything Oregon State's been through with losing the conference and then going independent, traveling 24,000 miles. But that was something we talked about too with Canzano, was the fact that, and Coach Canham talked about this too, is the fact that all those travel miles actually help them bond. I mean, you think about travel and how, you see each other at your ugliest, hangriest, tired state. You have to love those guys.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. When you do that and you travel with those guys and you have a bad weekend, say the Nebraska weekend, not the best weekend that they wanted to have, you know, you build character off of these things, and things happen. They have had issues with travel where the buses didn't show up. They had issues where they couldn't get to the next location. They had the Houston game canceled. You get to face a little bit of adversity through the season. It builds that character and makes you better by the end of the season. And I think you can push the whole thing over. Same as the bullpen. The bullpen had some guys that went through a lot of trouble, a lot of adversity. And I kept speaking, this bullpen's gotten better and better throughout the season. Rich Dorman's done a terrific job getting these guys ready and getting them set up for situations where if they're struggling and they had a little bit of adversity, they knew how to get through it. And you could see it this weekend. It was great in full display.
Okay, so let's talk now. Let's jump to Omaha, because you are leaving. I think you said 6 a.m. flight in the morning. So
6 a.m.
right,
flying out of here in Redmond. Yep.
Oh my goodness, Redmond. You have to make a stop, or does it go straight to Omaha?
Seattle, Redmond to Seattle and over.
Okay, well, we'll be thinking of you. But let's talk a little bit, because there's a couple really good stories, I think, when you look at these matchups. Nobody hot. I am going to veer here because I don't think there's anybody hotter right now than Murray State. I think going into the, before last night, I think everybody's kind of talking Oregon State. It was kind of this feel good. Murray State. Tell me a little bit about the, what are they, the Racers?
The Racers. Man, there's only been a handful. I think it's 4 seeds that have ever made it to Omaha. And it's incredible to see this team. A lot of seniors. You look across the roster, they're a very old roster. They're a team that has been together for a long time. They had a 45-win season. This is a very talented team. They hit the ball a lot. They don't necessarily have the superstar weekend ace. They don't have a guy that goes out there and shoves for them. But they have a really good bullpen of, again, leadership, older guys that come out there and just know how to throw strikes and get after people and are not afraid of anybody. You saw it this weekend in Durham. They lose the first game. They come back out and they win the next 2 at Duke, a team that has been waiting to go to Omaha for a very long time, 1961. And that was
They beat Auburn, too, before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, did this thing. They go down, they beat, Ole Miss and Georgia Tech and, teams that everybody had, okay, well, obviously Ole Miss or Georgia Tech's going to Omaha. Yeah. No, they go out there and they beat these teams, and then they go beat Duke, and, everybody thinks their season's done. Murray State comes out there and just unbelievable effort. And you can see that those guys, it's another thing, they traveled a lot this year. They love each other. They go out and do things. They went and watched Coach's son's Little League game after they won the regional. Really cool stuff for this program, and great to see them. I can't wait to go down there and see them practice on Thursday.
Well, and then I don't know if this is I saw something that their stadium holds 800 people. It looks kind of like a high school, and the coach still is the one out mowing the yard.
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, they do all their own field work. They don't have a crew that comes out there and does the stuff for them. 800 stands, and you've seen them before. They go out there and they go clean the stands. They go clean out the dugouts. Those guys have taken ownership in their ballpark, and it's really a great story. I can't wait.
Yeah. Okay, so if Oregon State can't, let's go Racers. Jake, do you have any questions? I feel like I'm just leaving you sitting there hanging.
I'll touch on the questions once we get more Oregon State relative.
Okay, so let's jump in here. Oregon State is in the first bracket, so they'll be first bracket, or bracket 1 kicks off on Friday. First game of the day is Coastal Carolina, Arizona. Talk to me about those two teams, because both Arizona, especially, I saw that first game that they lost, 18-2.
Yeah.
And then to come back and win.
You're talking about two very hot programs in different styles. So Arizona really had some highs early in the season, lulls in the middle of the season, and then they came back out and they got on fire. They go out and they win the Big 12 tournament, right? That's a big boost for them. They go down to Eugene. They don't have to face the Ducks. They go through that bracket after struggling in game 1 against Cal Poly. A lot of home runs. They got going with the hitting again. And I think that's what a lot of people in the country were afraid of, is that if Arizona can hit the ball, that's the biggest key. And I said that going into that weekend against North Carolina. If they can hit, they're good with anybody. Game 1, North Carolina showed up. They beat them up. It wasn't even close. Wasn't even a game. So Arizona kind of held all their guys back. They're like, we're not going to throw anybody. We're just going to kind of cruise through this one and figure out the next 2. It's exactly what they did. They just hit the ball. I mean, that's what they did all weekend long. Other than game 1, they just hit. And then you look at Coastal. They're 53-11. They have a 23-game win streak coming into this thing. And they've gone out. They won their home regional. Good for them. And then they go out and they just crush Auburn, which I didn't think was going to happen. They had that huge rain delay. They actually won 2 games within 12 hours of each other to get here, to get all the way to Omaha. So hats off to those two teams. I mean, 2 hot teams, and that's what you need at this time of the year. If you want to get to Omaha, you got to be hot and you got to have a bullpen, and both those teams have been able to do that.
Great. Okay, and I made a mistake earlier when I said that Murray State beat Auburn. They beat Ole Miss, so that was on me. I knew it didn't sound right, but then when Mark got Yeah, so Arizona is surprising, but yeah, I think Coastal Carolina, it could be kind of a sleeper team that people aren't expecting. Now talk to me about Beaver. So they play in the morning at Oregon State. Louisville plays the second game of Friday. Talk to me about what you think of Louisville.
They're one of the strangest teams that have gotten here. So they had a ton of injuries this season. They had some really bad lows. They had guys that were missing 12 to 24 games. They missed a lot of guys. They missed their front end rotation guys. Patrick Forbes, who's going to be the Friday night starter for them, he missed over half the season. So having him back healthy has been a big thing. They've seen him go out on Friday and really dominate teams. But they steal bases at an insane clip. 88.5%. They've stolen 155 bags out of 175 attempts this year. They field the ball pretty well, not as good as the Beavs. This whole bracket actually fields the ball over 970, which is crazy. But they hit 305 as a team, and they hit about the same amount of home runs. This team's going to hit. They're going to put pressure on you by stealing bases. I mean, Lucas Moore has more stolen bases than the Beavers have attempts this year. So that just puts it in perspective for you that he's at the top of the lineup there, 353 hitter, 5 home runs, 40 RBIs, but he's stolen 51 bags out of 52 attempts. He really doesn't get thrown out very often. There's no way to keep him off. If he gets on base, you're going to see him move around. You're going to see guys like Eddie King Jr., Jake Monroe, Zion Rose, Teague Davis. These guys are guys that hit the ball out of the ballpark, move guys around. They're a very aggressive offensive team. So it's going to be interesting to see them go up against Dax, who can throw multiple pitches for strikes. These guys like to hit fastballs. They're going to have to hit some breaking balls that are in the zone as well.
Well, then looking at their pitcher, I just keep seeing Patrick Forbes. That's the name I keep seeing. Is that who the Beavers going to – you see that matchup on Friday?
He's going to go Friday night for them. I mean, like I said, he missed a lot of time this season. He still got back up to 66 innings pitched. Okay. But of those 66 innings pitched, he struck out 107 batters. He has a huge curveball. He has a huge slider. He has big fastball. This guy's a big league arm. He missed a lot of time this season, but don't let those numbers fool you of only the 66 innings and the 4-2 record. He is a pro-ready pitcher right now. This guy has a lot of stuff. There are people that are going to be very excited to see this young man develop even further in pitch, but he has probably the best stuff left in the bracket. If you ask me, he's got the best stuff left in the whole bracket.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So Beavs don't have an easy path, which we didn't think they would. What does Oregon State need to do aside from trying to keep them off base, obviously?
That's a big key there first, right? Keep them off the base pass. Don't let them steal the bases. But besides that, it's going to be getting to Patrick Forbes early. Now, he's had some success lately. He came back, like I said, off that injury. If you can get to him early and get guys on the base pass against him and force him to throw from the stretch, you have a lot better options. He's a lot slower out of the stretch. His stuff has a little bit less zip on it. Get him some guys on base. Force Patrick to throw from the stretch. You're going to feel a lot better about yourself. I think doing the little things that they did in the regional where they're going to have to bunt. This is a big ballpark. This is bigger even than Goss Stadium. So this is a big ballpark. Doesn't necessarily play the home runs. I think the Beavers will still hit some, but the biggest key is going to be playing the small ball and getting outs when you have to. This team has been really good at fielding the ball, Oregon State, that they just need to keep that going. Take the outs they're going to give you. They're going to steal some bases, but don't give them anything extra. Don't give this Louisville team any extra room for offensive growth.
Jake, you have any Beaver questions?
Yeah. Is there a certain player or a certain aspect of the game outside of small ball that, you kind of see being the X factor this weekend?
I think what it's going to be is, can the middle of the Oregon State lineup produce runs again? Can they continue to keep hitting the ball? They're going to have to hit gaps, which they've done all season, but they've hit a lot of home runs as of late. They hadn't gone 3 games without a home run all season, so I had a feeling that they were going to hit some against Florida State in that last game. I think that they're going to hit some down here, but the biggest key is going to be, can they drive those gap doubles? Can they keep moving guys on the base pass? So you're going to be looking at a lot of the leadership there of Arquette, Turley, Caraway stepped up, Wilson Weber. Those 4 guys are going to have to produce. The biggest difference there is the bottom lineup. Can they roll that thing over and get some of this top end going? I think that you got to produce by getting some of those bottom of the end lineup guys going and getting them on base.
So, everyone kind of talks about, Brendan Summerhill, Iva, Gavin. Is there a player who's kind of more under the radar that is really a big league type player that could really turn some heads this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I know that one guy's kind of been flying under the radar all season because he's a little bit shorter on the side. It's shortstop Mason White from Arizona. He's a big league ball player. I mean, he plays shortstop. He's not the tallest guy in the world. 5'10" is what they have him measured at. Maybe a little shorter than that. 330, 19 home runs, 72 RBIs. But if you look at Louisville, Eddie King Jr. is a stud. This guy missed 12 games, still had 17 home runs, 60 RBIs, and hit 362. This guy plays every single day that he's healthy. He goes out there and he gives the Cardinals this huge emotional boost, and he's really their leader on offense and on the field. He gives them this big edge, and I think that people have overlooked him just because those 12 missed games. He's made up for it in the postseason.
He is. I'm showing his slugging percentage is over 600.
Yeah, he
So,
averages a base and a half every time he steps up to the plate, which is insane. I mean, he literally averages a single and a half every time he steps up to the plate with his on-base percentage and slugging percentage. So he's a superstar. I know that they haven't talked about him a lot at that next level, but he's a guy that I think is going to be a big difference in the weekend.
Got anything else, Jake, before I move on to the bracket 2?
Yeah. What has to go right for Oregon State to win?
I think you want to see a good start from Dax. I think that's the biggest thing, right? He's a freshman. He really has done well so far in the postseason. This is a different atmosphere when you step into Omaha. It's a whole different thing. The Chuck is different than even Rosenblatt, but it's a big ballpark. It's going to house about 30,000 fans, and I think that they're going to be filled up for that Friday night game. Can he keep his composure? Can he keep throwing strikes? We've seen other freshmen do it before, and we've seen them be successful here. This is the time of the season where those guys step up and be big. And I think that the Beaver bullpen just needs to stay being themselves. They've really come to this great group of guys that know when they can go in there, that any one of them. Look what Zach Kamatz did to this Florida State lineup, getting 8 consecutive outs against that team that really could have got back in the ballgame at any time had he allowed it. Guys like that stepping up late in the postseason, that's what makes Omaha run special. And then if Dax Whitney can be really, really good and get them a quality start here on Friday.
Yeah, I think the question too is just the bats, because they've seemed really streaky. They've been very good this postseason, but we've seen them go cold too.
Yeah, I think that the fact that it's a big ballpark is going to help the Beavs out a little bit because they're not going to have to rely on the long ball, and they know how to play small ball. And I think a lot of these other teams have hit home runs a lot of the season, so they're going to be looking to launch the ball out of there. The afternoon games especially, the wind blows almost directly in the face from center field, and it's really hard to hit a ball out of that ballpark.
See, this is the great insight. Is this your 4th or 5th year going to
Fourth year. Finally get the Beavs there, so pretty pumped. Very excited for this one.
So looking ahead at the second bracket, you're looking at some very familiar names for Beaver fans. You got UCLA. We've already talked about Murray State, Arkansas, and LSU. So UCLA is taking on Murray State. Tell us what we need to know about UCLA.
Can Michael Barnett go out there and shut them down game 1? Can he stop the Racers from this crazy offensive approach that they've had? The Racers have hit a lot of home runs in the postseason, so it'll be weird to see them in a bigger ballpark here if they're going to continue to do that. UCLA, Brock Cholowski, he really should have been a Golden Spikes finalist. I think that there was a little West Coast bias as to why he wasn't one of the final 3. He's probably the most talented player in this entire region, in this entire side. Yes, I know Wahiva Aloy from Arkansas fans are going to go crazy on me. It's Brock Cholowski from UCLA. He is the best player, best defensive player. He's the best hitter. He's the best overall player in this whole thing. UCLA needs to lean on their superstars and get going early because this is a team that can get behind and then they're not going to be able to slug their way out of it. So get ahead early. Don't let the Racers in this thing.
And then you have a huge matchup in 2 blue bloods, very familiar with Omaha, and Arkansas versus LSU. How did that happen? How did they allow 2 SEC teams to face off in game 1? But who do you like there?
Man, as soon as this bracket of 64 was released, we all looked and we go, that's Omaha. That's crazy. 2 very, very good programs. Of course, Arkansas still has never won a title. They've never won a College World Series title here. LSU, we all know about it. They've won it in 2023. They've won it a bunch of times. This is a program that wins a lot down there. Whoever wins this game here, the advantage is crazy for them for the rest of the way. The odds-on favorites to win the World Series, unfortunately, is coming from the winner of this game, most likely. Now, they both have had issues in the bullpen. They've both had some troubles late, getting people out, getting some bullpen help. The starters for both teams have been very good. You're going to see Cade Anderson. He might be one of the best arms left in the bracket for LSU go. Arkansas, I'm not sure who they're going to go. They might go Root. They might go another direction. They've gone with it a few times. But I believe Root's going to probably get the ball there against Anderson. So you're watching a Saturday night game between 2 aces that are going to be major leaguers one day.
Crazy. And how fun. I mean, I'm sure Arkansas is just licking their chops to try to go back against Oregon State after having the World Series. Basically.
Oh, I've heard about it all week.
Have you? Okay.
All week. I've been having people call me to be on shows in Arkansas. Like, they are very, very excited for that potential matchup. And I know a lot of people in college baseball are too, because it really was a great series.
It was a great series.
And you're talking about, Arkansas, DVH, Dave Van Horn has never won a title when his time at Nebraska or here at Arkansas. That Arkansas fan base is just craving a title. So they will be going all out. I would expect to see a sea of red there in Omaha.
That drop, that 2-out muffed foul ball actually might be a little crazier than the Beavs coming back on Friday night, but it was close. It was close.
In meaning, I think that the drop meant a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think on the crazy factor, I think you're right though. That comeback on 2 outs against one of the better closers in the country for Florida State, and they come back. I'll give you, they're both crazy.
They were both crazy. But that drop, we were actually laughing about because we were at my son's JBO game, and it was in Dayton, and they were beating the number one team, this Dayton Mullins team that was amazing. They were winning, and then we're watching the Beavers kind of go down, and then all of a sudden that drop happens, and the whole crowd that was gathered around my phone kind of like, wait, that's going to change the whole tide, and it did. But okay, Jake, any other questions before I jump over to the Lodge questions?
No.
Mark? Okay. So much good info. If you guys might have to go back and rewatch this because there's so much good info on all the teams. So Mark, thank you for that.
No problem.
We totally changing gears here, but Reeser Beeve 23 want to know, in today's day and age of NIL and the breakup of the Pac-12, can OSU legitimately field a team that can potentially go to Omaha year in and year out?
I think the answer is yes. I mean, you've seen it this year. This is an independent schedule, and a lot of us were worried in the college baseball world about what the committee would say for an independent team. What are they going to say? How are they going to rank them? How are they going to put them up there? And the committee committed to Oregon State and said, you know what? If they're going to go play the teams that they can across the country, they're going to do all these road games. We're going to give them the opportunity to host. We're going to give them the opportunity to be successful. NIL in baseball is not what everybody thinks it is. There's a few schools in the SEC that pay a lot. It's not crazy across the board. So NIL in baseball is not what you guys think it is. It's not this tens of millions of dollars across the board. That's not what it is. Also, you're going to see 34-man rosters starting up next year that they have to have that in by December 1st. You're talking about 1,500 spots that just got deleted from D1 programs out of those big programs that are going to be going across the country. You're going to see more of this parity across everything. So I don't think this hurts Oregon State at all. They're going to have their guys. They're going to be very successful. Doesn't matter whether they play Pac-12 ball or independent. I have big faith that they'll be fine for the long
Yeah,
run.
and from what I've heard too, the NIL, Oregon State's not working through the damnation. They have their own NIL, and they have some pretty successful alum that they can call up and say, "Can you help us out a little bit?" So
yeah, and it doesn't take much to stay in the NIL game in baseball.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not the only schools that you're talking about are two of them there, Arkansas and LSU, that have
and
a lot.
LSU, yeah,
But there's not a lot.
it's not the $40 million rosters that we're seeing in football. Okay, and then there's one more question for you. There's been a lot of chatter this year about reseeding after regionals to make the tournament more fair. Do you think this would lead to a better tournament, or do you like it the way it is?
I like the parity. I think that if you go out and beat the people you're supposed to beat and you're in your spot, you should not be reseeded. Now, I understand folks like Florida State that feel like they shouldn't have had to go to Goss and play this way of baseball. And there's people that are like, oh, well, LSU and Arkansas shouldn't be on the same side of the bracket in the World Series. Tough. That's how the draw happens at the beginning of the tournament. I like it. I like the parity. I like the fact that you win, you know exactly who you're playing down the stretch. You can see your line. It's directly in front of you. Don't change it. Don't reseed it. It doesn't make the bracket better. All it does is help out more of the schools that have been boosted by RPI all year. No, don't change the bracket.
I agree too. And especially too, when you look at West Coast, there's just not, it would help out those East Coast teams potentially. But Jake, do you have anything else for Mark before we let him finish packing and getting ready to go? Again, he's with College Baseball Central. You guys got to follow him on Twitter. I will drop it in the comments. His Twitter, Mark. I should always have it pulled up, and I don't. Is it MGAR?
At Margar 0010.
Margar.
Yep. And then of course College Baseball Central. You'll see us all there, all the videos and all the shows we do weekly. We'll be out there. We're gonna do some meet and greets also in Omaha. So you Beaver fans come by the Chinook tent. That's where we'll be doing a lot of those shows. The
Chinook tent at Margar 001, College Baseball Central. You guys, he has been fantastic. And we might have to have you on next week because, like I said, there's these little baseball superstitions that, kind of like, I don't know if you noticed, but Saturday night, there was no beer dam behind the home plate. Just not going to say that was the reason, but things that make you say, when you're watching baseball. Mark, thank you so much. Jake's going to stay on because we're going to talk a little football, official visit recaps. But Mark, thank you. Have safe travels, and
Thanks
Beaver fans.
I'll keep you guys posted from Omaha.
Yep. Mark will be our eyes and ears in Omaha. And like I said, make sure to buy him a burger or a beverage if you see him out and about. Thank you, Mark. Jake, that's fun. That guy knows his baseball.
Yes, he does.
As much as you know Beaver football.
Yeah.
So lots going on. You got graduation coming up this week. You excited?
A little bit. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty strange experience, but honestly, more excited for the game. Wish I was going to Omaha, but my mom said I couldn't skip graduation to go. I'm a little upset about that. But I understand it.
Yeah, it's a big thing for families. So, but we got you covered. We still have you covered. JP's weekly walk-off. I know he's working on it now. So we will have that whole JP's weekly walk-off ready to go for Friday morning, bright and early. Again, if you missed early, we are running our promotion. It goes until tonight at midnight. So you have a little bit of time if you're listening to this live to get in on the 60% savings, get an annual subscription for 60% off. I was told, though, because we're in Omaha, that they are going to let us extend to a 50% annual. So if you just miss it and you're listening to this on the podcast tomorrow, Thursday, whatever, jump in, get your annual subscription, because we go from baseball to recruiting and right into fall camp starting in August. We are not that far away. So you definitely not want to miss out on anything in BeaverBlitz or the Lodge. But Jake, it's been this weekend with graduation, no official visits, or
no,
it's quiet.
No.
But last week, so some updates. Oregon State did lose a defensive tackle commit in Noah Tischendorf, who flipped to West Virginia. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it just sounds like Noah was a guy who kind of wanted to play that outside linebacker edge role, and that's where West Virginia saw him, whereas Oregon State saw him, bulking up to 280, 290, playing defensive tackle, and he felt he fit better in that West Virginia scheme, which makes sense. So, best of luck. Yeah,
I don't necessarily. I mean, I don't fault him, but I also think Oregon State can now use that spot to go after maybe a bigger, true defensive tackle. This past weekend, though, they did have some guys on campus. I know you've been busy touching base.
Yep.
Who do you want to start with? Who have you heard from? What are your initial reactions from these fellas?
Yeah. So the initial result seems pretty well. The families, or Kai Wheaton's family and Respect's family, both took in the baseball game. Saw Respect there with Josh Patterson, the Beavers' assistant director of player personnel. Looked like he was enjoying himself, having a good time. He was there with Eliza Tuyaki and Samisi Saluni as well. So it was good to see. He's
the big D lineman for those listening, from Ponte Verde, Bedra Beach, Florida. 6'5", 250.
6'5", 250 defensive tackles. Took an official visit to Connecticut as well. He's got some pretty good size on him. Standing next to Shamar Michael and Clemens, he had some size on them, and those are two pretty big individuals. So I think it's a kid who can fill out his frame, kind of bulk up to 280, 290. All intents sound like he really enjoyed his trip.
He's the new to football, right? He was the
relatively new.
Yeah.
He played football.
Lacrosse?
He's kind of, yes. He's a big lacrosse kid. He's kind of seen his recruitment explode over the last couple of months. And, I feel like he's a guy who wants, the bigger, SEC, ACC schools start to see their, their top targets maybe go elsewhere. He's a guy that they could see as maybe more of a developmental piece, and he's a guy I could see schools like, Georgia Tech or FSU, or like a South Carolina, start to take a run at. But hopefully Oregon State can keep their momentum going and shut this one down.
That's great. And then Kai Wheaton, again, we mentioned him earlier. Kenny Wheaton's son, former Oregon great, nephew or cousin, of Marcus Wheaton. What was he was at baseball as well?
His family was. Kai was not. I know a few of the recruits went to the I believe it's Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, which a few of the Oregon State players joined, and there's like a big event. It's the African American fraternity, and
Their step.
Dean. Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but I know Sala, Trey Glasper, a few other guys joined that, and a few of the recruits went and checked that out. But Kai's family was at the game, actually walked past Kenny at one point. I haven't really haven't had a full conversation yet with Kai, but the early impression and talking to him went pretty good. So hopefully I'll learn more throughout the week.
Perfect. Anybody else you talked to? Isaiah Williams or Jeremiah Brown?
Haven't finished our conversations yet, so We're still figuring out.
Perfect. Well, we'll have another big recruiting weekend the following weekend, the weekend of the 20th. So we'll definitely be touching on all that in the lodge as well. But yes, this weekend is an off weekend because of graduation. Jake is graduating. So excited for you. Anything else you want to touch on before we let the viewers go?
No, I think that's about it. Just if you can, get out there, support your boys down in Nebraska, because it should be a pretty fun experience.
Yes, Omaha is going to be rocking. Hopefully there's lots of orange. I've been seeing we have a thread in the lodge of everybody who's heading to Omaha. It's a good turnout. Yell loud, and we'll have all the coverage for you back here in the lodge. And hopefully we're back next week to talk some more baseball. But big weekend. So make sure to be tuning in. Beav's first pitch. It's at 4:00 on Friday afternoon.
Yep, and that is subject to change, I believe, based on the
earlier games.
Might go, yeah.
There you heard it. Again, if you haven't heard all of what Mark, we talked to Mark about everything from the Super Regional to all the teams that will be all 8 teams in the College World Series. So make sure to go back and listen to that if you haven't. Great information. He's Jake Hedberg. I'm Angie Machado. We are both part of BeaverBlitz.com, and we'll see you next time on the Dan Podcast.